a discussion that is not legal. It's not going to be policy oriented. We thought that we would have one session during this gathering that would actually look at more a cultural side of things in terms of representations of people with albinism. And I think what we're going to discuss in the next little while is how different projects are aiming to change perceptions of albinism and people with albinism. So I'm happy to welcome the panelists tonight. I'll introduce them from your left to right, starting with Tando Hopa, who I think many of you know and have heard speak already earlier yesterday, for those of you who were here. Next to Tando is Isaac Mora, and Isaac, definitely you know him because he's been moderating some of the sessions earlier today. Next to Isaac, I'm pleased to welcome Ms. Cora Portet. She is a photographer who will be presenting to us some of her projects on persons with albinism. And next to Cora is Gloria Taruvinga. And Gloria was one of the subjects and one of the participants in one of Cora's photography projects. So I'm happy to give the floor to some of our panelists. We'll hear and see about some of their projects. And what I really want to do is encourage all of you to make this session quite interactive and ask questions or share any thoughts that you might have as we actually present the work of these people. And we'll start off with Cora Portet. And I'll leave the floor to you, Cora.
So, okay, okay. So, good evening. So, you already introduced myself. I apologize for my English also. I do have a very strong French accent, so I'm sorry for that. First of all, I would like to say that it's actually wonderful to see people involved in the discussion and to see that, you know, sometimes when you are doing projects, you can feel very alone in your project, and to see that there is people actually who are there and who are who are there and who are also involved in the topic is something I think very important for me. So I actually did 2 different projects. The first one was in Senegal. So I also my father is Senegalese actually, so I did my first photographic project in Senegal in 2014. And it was with a journalistic approach. So it was exploring access to education for children living with albinism in the region of Tambacounda, which is a very, it's one of the hottest regions in Senegal. So it was actually, I can say it was a very difficult experience for me. And I saw things that actually it's gonna mark me for the rest of my life. But yeah, and so I did the second project here in Johannesburg in South Africa. So my question was, you know, it's still the same continent, it's Africa, and how do people living with albinism can also live differently? Depends of the country, depends of their culture, depends of the tradition, depends of their environment and all of that. So I think we should have a look at the project. So this one is the second one that I did with Gloria. And so I think after showing you the images, she will maybe speak about the experience for her and how was it to be part of the project. Sorry, it's not moving. Okay. Yeah, the light. The light. I think.
Can we? Sorry, can we get the lights turned off? Turned off? Okay.
Okay. Thank you. So, what I propose is I'm gonna let you engage with the images and with the work, and if you have any question, you are welcome to ask me. So maybe I will ask Gloria if she wants to come and to speak about the the experience.
Good evening, wonderful ladies and gentlemen. I'm Gloria. So, as I experienced the project with Cora, I found out myself, feeling free, feeling, just we went out, we had a conversation, we managed to create a relationship between us. Why I'm saying we managed to create a relationship is most of the people, when they see albinos, they tend to call them names, they tend to give them, I don't know, I don't know how they create it. Maybe they see us not as human beings. Some of the people they even don't want to talk to you, or maybe you're trying to, like, I don't know, you're in a taxi and then you sit next to them. They don't feel comfortable, they don't feel like they're sitting next to a human being. So with this project, I managed to end a friendship, relationship, and I managed to go out. Like, I felt like I heard a sister besides me, because never in such a long time had I had that great time. We had ideas, we talked about life. Let me tell you one thing, why I felt so much like this. When I was born, my only father, he divorced my mommy because of my skin. He said, this is not a babu, this is not my child. So in my own, when I was growing up, I was thinking, so am I not a human being enough? Am I a taboo? Am I what? Because when I also went to school, the same thing happened. They were calling me names. They were, stigmatization went on and on and on. So because of this project, I realized, no, I'm a human being. I'm just like any other person. I can have friends. I can do whatever they do. I can go wherever I go. I can, this is a free world. But the society, I think it needs to be taught about who is an albino. What is it that's going on? Because I don't see a difference between you and me, ladies and gentlemen. Because what I wonder is that when people see a white man, they don't tend to call names, or like, they don't seem marveled. When they see Indians, they don't get marveled. But when they see the albino, they just call names, they just do all sorts of things. But to my question is, what is the real difference, me and you see? So this project, I guess it will go around and change people's lives and turn it into a better thing and stop the stigmatization. People, they need to be told, they need to know, the society, they need, at large, they need to understand what is our business. Because what I see is just a different skin. Whatever I have, you guys have it, you see. So people, they really need to stop this thing. Even in schools, we need to educate our children who is an albino. What is it? Because that one who gave birth to an albino, maybe he didn't want to, but it's because that's how it's supposed to be. That's how it is. I can't change myself. I can't, that's who I am. So you need to take me as I am. You need to appreciate me in the society. You need to, you need to welcome me the way I am. I don't see any difference. The only difference that I have is the skin, you see. So we need to educate the people. We need to, at first I didn't want to, when she approached me to have the project, I didn't want to talk to her because I thought maybe she's one of those people. You know, people are having all cultures. They're taking people. I actually have, where I'm staying, a neighbor. They have an albino boy. He's 2 years old. So this guy, whenever they're walking, it's 3 times the robbers, they come with guns pointing at them. Give us that child or else you will die. What do they want to use that child for? They want to use for rituals. They want to use to make business. You can't make business with somebody's blood. You can't be rich with somebody else. It's not because, if you kill me, it doesn't mean that you're going to have the business on and on and on. It doesn't make sense because what difference do we have is only the skin, you see? So what I'm trying to say is, guys, let's stop the stigmatization. Let's appreciate each other. Let's learn who we are. Let's, take me as I am. Don't think that maybe I'm a taboo, maybe I'm something else. I'm not an animal. I'm just a human being just as you are. So I think you guys, when you go out there, when you go back to your offices, to your societies, to your home, tell your neighbor that an albino is just a person like you. An albino is just a human being. The only difference is the skin. We all have hearts, we all have bodies, we all breathe the same thing. We all die the same. So when you go out there, teach them about us. And you yourself, don't make yourself inferior. If you see me, you try to run away, or you try to show me that I can't stand near you, or you are different from me. You see? You don't have to do that. What you have to do to us is you show love to us, because I've never heard of a situation whereby albinos were taking people to occultists, or whereby albinos were abusing people. But it's other people who tend to abuse us, and that's not a good thing. So we need to learn as people. We at large, thank God that all of you are here. You are going out there to tell them who we are. You are going to tell them what they need to do. You are going to tell them not to separate themselves, or not even to call us with names. We are just people. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So now I'm just going to go very fast to the second project. Is the first one that I actually did, and you will see that it's very different, and because this one is very much more dynamic and much more urban, I will say, and the one that I did in Senegal is completely different. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kora. I know that Tando has to leave us very soon, so I wanted to bring her into the conversation. Tando and I were working earlier today on a film that Open Society is doing on albinism, and part of our conversation involved images in popular culture and the lack of diversity, especially the lack of involvement of persons with albinism. And I'm wondering, Tando, if you can maybe comment on the kinds of photography projects like the one that Cora just showed us, and give us your thoughts on what the, I guess, considerations are in producing images of persons with albinism, and the what kind of considerations need to be thought of in terms of the subjects, persons with albinism, stereotypes, and not wanting to reinforce stereotypes or present persons with albinism as victims, those kinds of pitfalls, I guess, that often come with creating imagery.
Should I just sit here? Hello, everybody, again. Okay. I'm going to give you a very personal experience. Very, very personal. When I started in this industry, I was confronted with so many images of strife, of suffering when it came to albinism. And I wanted to present an alternative image. Now, the issue about that, well, firstly, let me start here. People will tell you that you don't have an accessible look, all right? And my issue was I really wanted to have an option of how I want to look. If I want to keep my hair the way it is, I don't want you to tell me that it's a unique kind of African that people cannot digest. Or if I don't want to color my eyebrows or my eyelashes, it's a choice. When I do because I want to do it, it's a choice. When I don't because I want to do it, it's a choice. And there needs to be a representation of different kinds of images, because as much as I can put on makeup and look all dolled up, that's not how I could look when I was 10 years old, or 12 years old, or 14 years old, you know? And I feel like there needs to be more of a representation when it comes to different kinds of images, even within albinism. I think part of the issues that I had is you do want to represent albinism, you do want to talk about it, but at the same time you don't want to be compartmentalized, so much so that other facets of you aren't allowed to come out. And that is the issue of integration, you know? But there's always that dynamic that is going on, because you don't want to feel like you have to not present it, not talk about it, because you feel very strongly about it and you want to talk about it. But when you do, then you get compartmentalized and almost imprisoned by it, you know? So I think in the industry that there's always that thing to consider with regard to, do you want to stick to a particular image to such a point that you can't move out of it? But if you do that at the same time, or if you don't do that at the same time, then you really don't want to ignore issues that are there. I think, you know, me being a model who's got albinism, a lot of the time when I had to do interviews, I had to be extremely vulnerable, because I had to talk about very personal experiences. And I think the best thing to do is, as much as I could talk on stage and have that image of this woman who is a lawyer, who is a model, who also has albinism, and talk about albinism, we need to also allow a level of integration where you can be put in spaces where you talk about other things. So people do understand that there are relatable facets to you in order to also normalize the image. So I think that's the real dynamic between just integration and also specifically talking about the image. I'll just tell you one story. There's a story that a film, which I can't really disclose much about because it's not made yet. And they said, you know, we want to do a movie about this lady who's got albinism. And they talked about so much. I mean, the narrative was so much about her being bullied and her community wanting to take her body parts, etc. And I said, all right. And I said to the director, I'm like, what's her friend's name? And he's like, what? I'm like, what's her friend's name? Like, tell me in the story, what's her friend's name? What are her aspirations? What does she want to do after school? And he's like, well, you know, we didn't. And I'm like, you didn't humanize the story. That's what happened. You didn't humanize the story. You didn't make her relatable. You exacerbated the otherness in her. Instead of looking at things that when people see a human story and then you bring in this violence, they can relate because they can say, but she wanted to be a police officer after that, but she had a boyfriend who loved her, and she had this cousin who she told her first secret to. All of these stories that humanize, and that is the power of film, and that is the power of image. You have so much at your disposal in terms of storytelling. And I think it's something that we really need to intellectualize. We can't just do without intellectualizing. Anyway, I think that's all I can say.
Thank you so much, Tando. And I know you need to go, so thank you so much for staying with us. And I think that what I'll try to do in a few minutes after we hear from Isaac is it would be great to get some questions from the audience. And I think it would be really interesting to hear what stories people thought Cora's two projects were actually telling, and to get some feedback from the audience on that, and to hear from Cora and from Gloria to see if that's actually the stories that they were intending to tell. Isaac, would you like to take the floor and maybe talk a bit about the project that you've been involved with?
Good evening. Yeah, just say hi to your friend and tell him, I am a person with albinism. Now you see, some people don't want to say that. Or do you want to say I'm an albino? Oh no, I'm sure you don't want to do that. So, are we starting with the video? So, when I was growing up, and in the dating scenes, I realized something very interesting. That the girls that I came across found it very difficult to say that I am handsome. They say, oh, you look good, you look nice, but they would not say I am handsome. And I also realized that, hey, I would see girls with albinism and I thought they were beautiful, but nobody would tell them they were beautiful. And I said to myself, really? This is something that we need to look at. It is because of such issues and looking at the vicious cycle of single parenthood, whereby, like myself, my father left because I have albinism, and it is a story of so many. In fact, under the albinism sort of Kenya, you could say 70%, if not more, of people are from single parent backgrounds, the members. And then our girls, when they grow up, they get people who give them children, but they don't want to marry them. So it becomes a vicious cycle. And so therefore, to find the word albinism, handsome and beautiful in the same sentence, it becomes difficult. And that's the reason why, after a lot of thinking, I thought, why don't we have a Mr. and Miss Albinism? So that we can redefine that narrative. So that we can present a new image of ourselves. It is because of this that we mobilize resources and we were able to have the first ever Mr. and Miss Albinism in the whole world on the 21st of October last month. And it's an event that really has been covered the whole world over 194 outlets. And it has had a huge impact in Kenya. People are talking about it. I am very, very surprised by the comment of one lady who was participating. She said, I know I'm beautiful in the bedroom, but when I get out, I am not sure. And that's the story of many people with albinism. And after the event, they tell me now the people are running towards them. They're not running away from them. They become celebrities in their own rights. That is the transformation. People can talk about it. Now we are having corporates who want to come and join in. It was difficult to raise the resources. $30,000 is what it cost us. But now people want to come and partner with us. I have received a request from as far as Gabon. In fact, the person who inboxed on social media is a lady, a fifth-year medical student. She sent me photos of a guy who she thought would qualify to be a model. But as we continued to discuss and everything, I actually realized he was the boyfriend, but she never wanted to say. And then she asked me, are you married? So I sent her photos of my wedding and everything, and she became more confident. And she now accepted that was actually the boyfriend. So it's changing perceptions. And that is what we want to do. So I would indulge us to watch some video for about 3 minutes. We can dim the lights. And then we see some few photos, then we can have a discussion. Thank you.
It's a night for confidently stepping out of the dark. In the first pageant of its kind, young albino men and women compete for the title of Miss and Mr. Albinism Kenya. Organizers are hoping the pageant will promote inclusion of people with albinism who often face stigma, alienation, and even physical abuse.
It's about challenging stigma and discrimination about persons with albinism. It's never happened anywhere in the world because people with albinism are not seen to be beautiful or handsome. So it's very rare to find those two words in the same sentence. And we want to show our talent. We want to confront stigma and discrimination. We want to change our narrative. We want to show that actually, yes, it is possible to have people with albinism who are beautiful, who are confident, who can do it.
The models were chosen in a countrywide selection process and were put through a boot camp and taught how to walk and put on a show.
They learn first of all that we are beautiful, we are handsome, we can laugh, we can catwalk. I don't catwalk usually, but we try. And we can do what we are perceived not to do,
Albinism is a genetic condition that results in a reduction of pigment in the hair, skin, and eyes. Many grow up with a lot of challenges, but this pageant has worked wonders for the contestants' self-confidence.
This event means a lot to me as a person with albinism, especially a person who has lost a lot in her years, difficulties. So it means a lot to me because another opportunity that you're given to express yourself through actions and speaking, and to be a role model to the other young girls and boys who are watching us.
Taking part in this competition means a lot since it creates awareness to both the people and the nation, so that everyone can understand that we are of no different than the other people with melanin.
In many parts of Africa, albinos are kidnapped and their body parts hacked off for use as charms and magical potions.
The world suffers a lot. Not because of the violence of bad people, but because of the silence of good people. And I want to say to Honorable Maura and his team that because you refuse to be silent, that is why today the people with albinism are not only recognized by the government of Kenya, but we have a program for persons with albinism.
While such attacks are rare in Kenya, it's through initiatives like this one that can slowly change the negative perceptions and promote beauty beyond the skin. Truly Shabalala, CCTV.
So that's the guy, maybe for those who did not see clearly, that's our deputy president. He was a chief guest. We had 20 participants, 10 male and 10 female, from across the country. As you can see from that image, you can dim the lights a bit. So you can see these beautiful girls with albinism, wearing the African attire, looking very gorgeous. Okay. And maybe go back to the image. If you see that lady, the girl, the first image. Sorry. Yeah, okay, so the first image, sorry, we're having some technical issues here. The first image, the lady who was in the middle, she's actually gotten now a contract with a company from Paris to do high fashion. You see? Yeah. This is a girl actually, and she also happened to, she came and we gave her an internship at the Albinism Society of Kenya. Now she can do high fashion. I think she's starting next year. This is a gentleman called John. He had done some photo shoots of wanting to be Big Brother Africa. He's never participated in any beauty pageantry. And he was the first runners up in Male. And he's very, very happy. In fact, he says now he can even train people with albinism. You can see his creation. That what you're seeing is creative attire using toilet tissue paper leftovers. It was even in the newspaper. Next. You see now the creativity using balloons. That's the same girl I talked about. Next. Yeah, and now that's Jairus. Jairus is a Mr. Albinism. He's only 20 years old. He's a music student. So we were able to see a lot of talent in terms of music, aspirations to be policemen, for example. We don't have policemen with albinism. The issues to do with people think that we contaminate food. So you could see some lady there, showing that he can be a chef. Others playing baseball, others doing skateboarding. Things that you think people with albinism would not do. And it was extremely, extremely eye-opening. It has made people to appreciate people with albinism, and we need to do more. In fact, I was telling my good sister Ike that we need to do a regional one now. We need to have a Mr. and Miss Albinism Africa, you see, where countries can participate. Because through this, now we are going to do a photo book project where we sell the photos and the process go back to the society. Through this, interestingly, I think from Kelly, the story from Panama, people with albinism kind of tend to sing very well. Sometimes I think it's because some of us went to blind school, I don't know. But when we were having the boot camp, we realized our contestants could sing very well, the finalists. And now we are also going to produce a song that they are going to do. And at the same time, we have had an opportunity to get training with Toyota Kenya for them to improve on their self-image and entrepreneurial skills, those kind of things. So new partnerships coming on board. And one of the innovations of this contest or this event initiative is bringing on board the private sector, so that they can contribute to these perceptions, change of perceptions. And we've also had offers now, much as we had the programs. Like the biggest electricity generating company has said we can have some 2 or 3 people going for internship. They may even take 1 or 2 for employment. So those new partnerships and changing the perception. And of course, the fact that the deputy president came on board means that there was that endorsement, that political endorsement. And I think it's very, very important to do such kind of things. Not just showing the sorry stories of skin cancer, of ritual killings, or people suffering in some dingy places. We've got to show that we've got something different. And we hope and believe that the more we show this, the more we keep on showing beautiful women, then also our women will get married. Then men also will, then our men will not be asked questions whether they can have children who don't have albinism, as if it's a curse to have one with albinism. So this is what we want to achieve through changing perceptions and narratives. Thank you very much.
I'm happy to open the floor to questions if anyone has questions for any of our panelists. Sure.
Good evening to you all. My name is Juventus. I'm from Ghana. I have a question for Mr. Isaac. If I heard you right, you said that when you were born, as with albinism, your father left. Now that you have grown, you have become an MP. I want to ask you, so how would your father feel now that you have become an important person? And also, how are you able to influence people to accept albinism? Thank you.
Okay, we'll take several questions and then ask the panelists to answer. So the next one here, and then I think there was a couple here.
Thank you very much. Mine only comments about demystifying or deconstructing the cultural norms and stigma about persons with albinism. We can see the art of image and filming. It's very important to film positive aspects. For instance, when I was doing my project called My Story, My Rights, persons with albinism shared their experiences, and one of them was a midwife who was always rejected to work on the ward, and the very nurse who used to deny her work gave birth to a child with albinism, and it was this very person to support them. So it's my thinking that Open Society would invest more in filming this positive aspect, for instance, persons with albinism in employment, maybe practicing law or practicing medicine or even working in the salon, so that people get to learn that they are like any other person. And then the other thing is about the family. When I was doing that research still, the first person told me that, I know that you black people don't like us. I gave them a hug. So it's that kind of a thing appearing in a film shows that there is no discrimination and teaches the community to treat them fairly. I would really implore Leon to do videos of that kind. Thank you.
Noted, Florence. Thank you.
Okay.
And we have a couple of questions up here, and then I'll let the panelists answer.
Can
These two gentlemen here.
Okay. Thank you so much, Chair. The first question, Chair, goes to I want to find out from the first presenter who did some work in Senegal and did some work in South Africa. I wanted to hear from her what remarkable differences did she notice in terms of cultural attitude towards people with albinism in Senegal, which is predominantly an Islamic country, and in South Africa, which is predominantly a Christian country. That is one. Secondly, I really wanted to ask this question to Isaac. I should have asked him a long time ago, but I think we kept missing each other. Maybe when I'm looking elsewhere, he has passed. So I will take this opportunity to find out. You talked about statistics in Kenya, that you managed to convince the Central Statistics Office to include the issues of albinism in statistics. And I wanted to find out how many people with albinism have you managed to identify in Kenya? And how can you help us in other countries bring on board such an idea? Because I think this is one of the areas we have a challenge to have the exact numbers of people with albinism and even people with disabilities. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Honorable Isaac. I think I'm going to ask for a few contacts off the mic for some of the models, because you've got beautiful models that side. But I'm Brian and I'm from Zimbabwe, and I just wanted to compliment you on the modeling pageant. I just wanted to make mention of the fact that you have really created quite a resource for your foundation. Those people, the confidence that has been shown even from the short video clip, shows how much you have improved their lives. So my follow-up question on that is if there are any sustainable plans that you are making of using the same resource that you have created to create confidence in the rest of the albino community. Because having been working with the albino community, I've noticed that a lot of people really lack in confidence. So if they've got mentors like the ones that we've seen here, if they've got icons to look at, I'm sure that a lot of things can be done. A lot of the people in the community can also benefit. So do you have any plans of maybe having them become mentors of maybe people with albinism in schools or any other person in the rest of the albino community in Kenya? That's my question.
Okay. First, Honorable Isaac, I want to congratulate you. Congratulations for the project that you embarked on, and also continue in terms of sustainability. For the young woman, I'm very much interested in what you do and what you intend to do. I would say to all of us that don't be a cheap copy of the original. Don't be a cheap copy of the original. Be yourself. Sometimes we want to show to the colored people that we're white people. We're not. Be yourself. You don't have to talk like a white man to be accepted. Just be yourself. Once you're authentic, you'll grow in confidence, and don't also be overconfident. It scares people away from you. Don't be overconfident, and be vulnerable if you have to. Thank you.
I think we'll stop there and take some of the questions and get some of the panelists to answer. Isaac, would you like to start first and respond to the questions put to you? There were some questions about how many people have been identified in Kenya as persons with albinism. There were comments about creating confidence in the albinism community, and if there are any other resources that you're working with or that is going to come out of the pageant that you've been organizing. And after you've gone, we'll pass the mic back over to Cora.
Thank you, Leo. Let me first begin by the issue from my friend from Ghana. Yes, my father left, but I can tell you I've gotten a report that he really regrets nowadays. In fact, my mother will not tell me, but at some point he actually wanted to approach my mother, they get back together. But of course, surely, that's very opportunistic, so that's what's under the bridge. And I have never met him, and I have very mixed feelings of if I was to ever meet him. But people know about him. But funny enough, because we were discussing this with Jake about forming a wider coalition, not just on albinism, but people with hypopigmentation, so people with vitiligo. It's interesting that his own mother actually got vitiligo, so she has become very white, if you like us, the way it looks. So it's funny how sometimes if you call it karma happens, but then we don't wish anybody anything like that. But we are a good example of demonstrating how you can waste your resource if you don't empower people with albinism. Now, on the statistics, we did not get persons with albinism in the census register. We did not succeed. What we did is that for the first time there was a question on disability, and then we were told we came too late, which I don't agree. But then the enumerators, in their notes, they were told there was a box for other types of disability that they should consider albinism there. So out of that, the extrapolation is that we are about 65,000 in Kenya. However, that is disputable, of course. What we did with our program for sunscreen distribution, we wrote a position paper as Albinism Society of Kenya to the government, where we initially suggested that 2,500 beneficiaries per month should be given a bottle of sunscreen. This number has since risen to 3,190. So this is the official database of people with albinism we have in Kenya, that we even have an SMS system that we communicate with. So those are, if you like, the official statistics. But it must be reminded, it must be borne by all of us that the issue of people with albinism is not about numbers, because when you make it number, it also borders on being political. It's about the individual lives. It's about that individual who is suffering because on account of albinism. I mean, if it was one Kenyan with albinism, they deserve to be listened to. Brian, I see somebody who is like a young Mugabe in you. I think you are quite political. You should be a future MP in Zimbabwe. Now, the mandate of the Mr. and Miss Albinism, when you win a pageant, then you have the mandate. The mandate is on promoting the rights of children with albinism. So we are still configuring that with the manager of Mr. and Miss Albinism, so that they can be going to schools and using such opportunities to advocate for the rights of children with albinism for the whole of this year until next year when we have another one. And we, of course, would love to partner with anyone who would help us to do that in terms of awareness creation. The Mr. and Miss Albinism contest is actually a project under our awareness creation initiative called Nikon Haki Campaign, which we move around the country to create awareness, which of course we also want to partner with people. So we expect that then by the time they finish that mandate, we will have elevated the status of the rights of children with albinism, and also brought on board more partners in that regard. Now, J.K. Pele, allow me to comment on what you just said. It was not directed to me, but there's something I've noted, Leon. And this maybe applies to all people who are considered to be marginalized. People will actually discriminate against you when they realize you are too good. When you tell it to them in their face, they'll find a way of shoving you off down the throat. And they will even be resistant to your suggestions, not because they think you are too intelligent to be a person with albinism. You're too focused, you're too confident. We must not accept. They may do away with Isaac today, but other Isaacs will be inspired and move on and confront that stigma. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Isaac. Cora, there was a question for you about what kind of research you did into cultural attitudes before you shot your project in Senegal. And I'm wondering if you can actually touch a bit on the differences between how you approached the project in Senegal versus the one that you did in South Africa, and what those differences were and how they informed your work.
Thank you. So, so I would like to say that when I did the first project in Senegal, actually, I was working with a journalist, a colleague, which is currently working for a national Senegalese newspaper. And when you do a project, there is always the before the project, during the project, and after the project. So before the project, I think I have to say something which is very important. We try to do research about what we're going to talk about, and we try to find information about people living with albinism in Senegal, and especially in this region in Tambacounda, because it's one of the hottest in Senegal. And I have to tell you that we struggle to find information. There is a lack of information. So we went there, and what we found in this region, so we find very high temperature. We went there in winter, and the temperature was around 40 degrees. It was winter, and we find poverty, and we find people who don't have access to education, which is right, which is a universal right, actually. we find very difficult stories. I can tell you some of the stories. So we went to a family in a little villages. So to go there, also transportation, you have to walk. You have to walk, and the sun is very hot. So you have to walk to go there. And there is a family with a little kid, and this little kid is 8 years old. And he has never been to school. And actually the father of the family told us that I can say also that there is a lack of education and understanding and all of that. So the father told us that they are very, very concerned about this little kid, and they understand that the sun is burning. Yeah. So what they did is that all the family, they did economy. They put a little bit of money to buy a solar cream for this kid. And when you see where the family is living, actually, it's painful, like very painful. But you can see that they are caring about this kid. And the sad part of the story is that they told us that this kid developed an allergy to the cream that they buy, actually. So we don't know if it's because the cream was not good enough, or if, but you know, that's the kind of thing that we were exposed. So yeah. So there is another story also that I think I should tell you. It's more about false beliefs, and we spend all the afternoon in another family. The mother is alone to raise 7 kids, because the father actually passed away the year before, and they are sleeping in one room. They are sharing the same bed, and so she said that she's selling, I don't know, it's like a cereal. It's like Senegalese cereal to raise her kids, and we spend time with one of them, because actually I think it's also, you know, it was very difficult because it was not just, we were not there to do a catalog of people living with albinism. So it's also considering the family around, and actually the other kids that are also suffering, they are also living in poverty. So, and so we spend time with one of, so there is a little girl, she's going to secondary school, and so she's 12 years old, and we spent time with her during all the afternoon, and she didn't want to talk to us. She said she was very shy, and actually you saw one of the pictures of her when she's looking at her hands. And she was very shy, she didn't want to share anything with us, so we just spent time, and at the end of the afternoon, because we also have to manage our time, and we just say, okay, we're gonna leave you, but thank you for sharing some time with us. And she said no. She said no, stay. And because my colleague was asking her, how is it for you when you go to school? And she never answered to this question. And when we leave, she said, no, come. And she started to talk, and she said that every day when she's going to school, the other kids in her class are splitting on her, because they believe that if they split on her, they're not gonna have a child with albinism in their own family. So, yeah, I can say in Senegal it was very sad, and I think it's very important to give a positive message, but sometimes, you know, you are just confronting in front of something that you just can't give a positive message. That's what it is, and you just try to manage your emotion and try to stay professional, try to put your emotion in your work and try to do something with it. But actually, when I came in South Africa, I asked myself this kind of question, and also about representation, and yeah, it's poverty, it's sad, and it's actually, for me, it's actually what happened, what I saw. But there is also sometimes you can also find some other people, and you will see confidence, and you will see a positive message, and something that you want to show that yes, there is also another point of view on the story, and there is also another. Sorry, I'm thinking in French sometimes, and I'm trying to follow in English. So. But yeah, so it's completely two different approach, and I think, okay, I don't know if you saw well the picture, but with the Senegalese project, even in the approach, like photographically, it looks old. It looks almost like paintings, like something, you know. And in the project that I did this year, actually, and I was not even thinking about doing this project. I think it's because of the meeting with Gloria, because of this relationship, that I was like, okay, I should maybe try to continue, and she brings something different, so that's why I continue. But it's something more young, more dynamic, and yeah. Thank you.
I'm gonna actually, I'm being mindful of the time and mindful that people are probably quite anxious to get to dinner soon. Are there any last questions before we wrap up? I wanted to thank all of our panelists for coming tonight. And before we do wrap up, there's one last thing that I did want to put on the screen, if we could get the lights dimmed again, please. And because this is a disability rights conference, most of you are probably aware that it's coming up. This year is the 10th anniversary of the Convention on the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. And so Open Society, we've just actually produced a short film talking about that, and it's just been finished yesterday. So I thought that we would take this opportunity to show it to this audience. And so I'll just get that on. For some reason, it's not on the screen anymore. Can we? I'm not sure what's going on. Oh, did I? There, it's because the, okay. Okay. Can we get these lights off, or, because it's really
I don't want people to identify me according to my weaknesses. I'm a person who is capable to do things, regardless of the impairment I have or the disability I have.
The UN Convention on Rights of Persons with Disabilities, I think, has really been a game changer in the disability rights movement. It's really kind of put disability rights on the map.
What we've seen is that around the world, you see disability advocates and people with disabilities engaged in policy conversations and engaged in policy debates in their country to change the experience in their everyday lives.
What made disability rights movement stronger is the fact that we were capable to come together. Blind and deaf and people with like developmental disabilities, intellectual disabilities, etc. But still, we have this challenge continuing as we speak.
The convention is important because it's the first international treaty which contains binding law on the human rights of people with disabilities.
A real hotspot in the negotiations was the issue of legal capacity and recognizing that all people, regardless of disability, have rights and the right to act.
As an autonomous being ourselves, we would want our choices taken away from us, even if we know they are the wrong decisions.
many people do not believe that persons with disabilities have the capacity to decide, have the capacity to be bound by the law, have the capacity to sue and be sued.
Human rights don't emerge. Human rights are claimed and recognized. And I think that's how they come into.
I'm so sorry, we seem to really not. I'm so sorry, guys. This is so embarrassing. We seem to have really not a good technical ability tonight. I'm not going to put you through the pain of me trying to get this to work, so I apologize for that. Hopefully we will try to solve this and screen the movie at a different time. But I thank you for your patience. And again, thanks to our panelists here for joining us and talking about changing perceptions on people with albinism. It's been a great conversation. So thanks to you all and have a great evening. We'll see you back here tomorrow.
Around the world on bullying in schools. So, no,